Okay, let's unpack this. You're learning English, maybe for work, maybe just because you love the language.
Right.
It's exciting, definitely. But then you have to actually speak.
Yeah.
And suddenly it feels a bit, well, high stakes.
Yeah, like walking a tightrope, as you said. Everyone makes mistakes. That's just part of it.
Totally. Yeah. But some mistakes kind of stick around, don't they?
Yeah.
And they can knock your confidence, make things feel less natural.
That's it, exactly. It's not just, getting a verb tense wrong once. It's those recurring habits, the ones that make you sound maybe hesitant or even confuse people a bit, even if you know a lot of words.
Right. And what we're really aiming for is clear, confident conversation. So today we're doing a deep dive.
Yep.
We're looking at common mistakes, specifically in English conversation. We've been digging into this material, fixing 10 common English conversation mistakes.
Sounds useful.
Our mission is basically to pull out the key insights, figure out why these things happen, and get some really practical tips.
Actionable stuff.
Exactly. Things you can use to sound more natural, more confident.
And it's not about chasing perfection, right? Or losing your accent. It's about smoothing out those bumps.
Yeah.
Sounding more comfortable and just, getting your point across more effectively.
Perfect. Because communication, that's the real goal.
Yeah.
So let's jump in. What are these hurdles?
Right.
How do we start clearing them?
Well, first off, let's just get this out there. Mistakes are good. I mean, they're necessary.
Right. Part of learning.
If you're not making mistakes, you're probably not pushing yourself, not speaking enough. But knowing the common pitfalls, that can definitely speed things up, help you sound more natural quicker.
Okay, good framing. So let's start with one that feels really common just in basic word choice. The material flags the overuse of very.
Yes. Very. It's a classic sign, isn't it? Relying too much on very good, very interesting, very tired. It kind of flattens your speech, makes it sound a bit basic.
Yeah.
Native speakers just naturally use a wider range, more colorful words for intensity.
I get that. Saying very good feels fine, but it doesn't have the same impact as, say, fantastic or brilliant.
Exactly. It feels a bit weak, almost.
Yeah.
So the fix is pretty straightforward. Build up your vocabulary of stronger adjectives.
More descriptive ones.
Yes. Instead of very good, try excellent, amazing, superb. Instead of very bad, maybe terrible, awful, dreadful.
The material used an example, right? This movie is very good versus...
This movie's fantastic or amazing.
Yeah.
See the difference.
Yeah, it paints a much clearer picture. It feels more expressive. So for you listening, maybe notice, do you lean on very? Swapping it out sometimes could really make your English sound more vibrant.
And it's not just about sounding fancy either. It's about precision. There's a real difference between very tired and, say, exhausted.
True. Okay, so moving from specific words to how we actually sound when we're pausing or thinking, fillers.
Fillers. Yes, everyone uses them sometimes, even native speakers, let's be clear.
Sure.
But, too many of them. It can definitely make you sound unsure or nervous, maybe even a bit distracted.
Yeah, it breaks the flow, doesn't it? It's like little speed bumps. You're waiting for the idea and you get,
Exactly. And often it's just about trying to fill that silence while you're thinking.
Right.
But the fix, which I think is great, is to try embracing the pause. Just a short, silent pause. It actually sounds way more confident than filling the gap with, it shows you're thinking, not lost.
That takes practice though, right? Because silence can feel awkward when you're the one speaking.
It can feel longer to you, yeah. But the material suggests recording yourself. That's a really good tip.
Oh, good idea.
Listen back just for the fillers. Hear how often you use them. Then you can consciously try replacing them with, silence.
Okay, so for you listening, think about that.
Yeah.
How comfortable are you with a brief pause? Maybe try it next time you're searching for a word instead of defaulting to or like.
It takes effort at first, for sure. But the impact on how confident you sound is pretty significant.
Okay, sticking with tricky little words. Prepositions. In, on, at. They're notoriously difficult.
Oh, absolutely. Prepositions are tough because they often don't follow clear rules. They're highly idiomatic.
Right.
You usually can't just translate them directly from your own language. And using the wrong one, it immediately sounds unnatural. Or it can even change the meaning completely.
It feels like there are just endless tiny rules
Yeah.
and then endless exceptions. Why are they so twirled?
Well, they express relationships, right? Time, place, direction, abstract ideas, and different languages just carve up those relationships differently.
Oh, okay.
There isn't always a neat one-to-one match. So the real fix is about exposure and learning common phrases like as chunks.
Learning chunks. You mean like interested in instead of trying to guess if it's in or on?
Exactly that. The material mentions this. Don't get bogged down trying to find universal rule. Learn the common pairings.
Like the example they gave. I am good in cooking.
Right, which sounds wrong. It should be, I am good at cooking. You learn good at an activity as a set phrase.
Good at cooking. Interested in politics. Depend on someone. Okay, I get it. So for the listener, this is where you need to listen actively, maybe even memorize some of these common phrases.
Yeah, treat them like vocabulary items themselves. Good at is like one word almost. It's often much more effective than trying to apply some complex rule.
Okay, moving from those tricky prepositions to another fundamental grammar point that trips people up. Articles. Forgetting a, an.
Yes, articles. Or maybe misusing them. This is a big one, mainly because many languages just don't have them or use them very differently.
Right.
So learners might just leave them out. But in English, they're absolutely essential. They pop up everywhere.
They're tiny words, but they carry a lot of weight. I need book versus I need a book, or
Sure.
I need the book. Totally different meanings.
Absolutely. The core idea, the fix, starts with understanding their main job. A and an for a single countable noun that's non-specific.
Like I want an apple. Any apple will do.
Exactly. Whereas the points to something specific, something we both know about, or it's already been mentioned, or there's only one.
I want the apple. Maybe the one you're holding.
Precisely. The material uses that simple example. I want apple wrong. I want an apple. Correct, if you mean any apple.
So getting that basic difference down, a general for general, the for specific, that's the crucial first step.
It really is. Article usage gets more complex, sure, there are lots of nuances. But nailing that fundamental specific versus non-specific distinction, it makes a massive difference to your clarity and how natural you sound.
Okay, super important. Let's shift to talking about time, telling stories, describing things. Mistake number 5. Using the wrong verb tense.
Verb tenses. They're like the signposts for time in your story. Get them wrong, and your listener is immediately confused about when something happened.
Yeah, the timeline gets all messed up. If I talk about yesterday using present tense, it just doesn't track.
Exactly. It makes your story really hard to follow. The material suggests focusing first on mastering the core tenses.
The main ones we use all the time.
Right. Present simple for habits and facts, present continuous for what's happening now, past simple for finished actions, and the simple future for plans.
And practicing them. Hopefully not just by filling in blanks in a textbook.
No, the best way is to actually use them. Tell stories. Talk about your day, your weekend plans. Make it functional.
Yeah.
The classic example they give is, yesterday I go to the market. Incorrect. It needs to be, yesterday I went to the market. That past simple went clearly marks it as finished.
I like framing it as storytelling practice. So for you listening, maybe try narrating your day, even just in your head, paying attention. Is this past, present, or future?
Exactly. Turns grammar practice into something more engaging.
All right, now for a big one. Pretty much every learner runs into this. Literal translation from your first language.
Oh yeah, this is huge and totally understandable. But the thing is, languages aren't just different words for the same things. They have different structures, different ways of putting ideas together.
Different blueprints, like we said.
Right. So translating word for word, it usually sounds, well, clunky, awkward, sometimes just plain wrong.
It just doesn't sound like English.
Not really. The fix is less about direct translation and more about learning English phrases and patterns. How do native speakers express this idea?
Listen and imitate the structure, not just the words.
Exactly. The material has that great example. Slightly funny. I have hunger.
Right. Which makes sense in some languages, but in English.
In English, we say, I am hungry. It's a state of being. You use the verb to be, not to have. Learning I am hungry as a complete phrase is key.
That I have hunger example really sticks because it sounds so different to a native ear. So for you listening, try to catch yourself if you're mentally translating word by word. Pause and think, okay, how would someone actually say this in English?
And that comes back to listening, really paying attention to common expressions.
Okay, moving on. Something that seems minor, but really affects how natural you sound. Not using contractions.
Contractions. It's don't, can't, won't. They are absolutely standard in spoken English.
All the time.
All the time. If you don't use them, your speech can sound quite formal, maybe a bit stiff, even robotic sometimes.
It's not just about being quicker, is it? It changes the whole rhythm. I am going versus I'm going. Sounds different.
Completely changes the flow, the musicality of it. Spoken English relies on contractions for that natural rhythm, so the fix is simple. Practice using them consciously.
Make an effort to say I'm instead of I am.
Yeah. In your speaking, even in informal writing, like emails to friends, the material uses that exact example, I'm going versus I'm going. The second one just flows better.
It feels much more natural. So for the listener, this is maybe an easy win. Start consciously throwing in those contractions.
Definitely low-hanging fruit for sounding more fluent.
Okay, let's talk about delivery. Not just the words, but how we say them. Pace. Mistake number 8. Speaking too fast or too slow.
Right, pace. This really impacts how easy you are to understand and also how confident you seem. Too fast and words get jumbled, people can't keep up. Too slow, and it can sound hesitant or, frankly, a bit boring. Hard for the listener to stay engaged.
Yeah, finding that sweet spot, not rushing, but not dragging either.
Exactly, a moderate, comfortable pace, where you can articulate clearly and your listener can process easily. The material talks about finding your natural rhythm.
And again, that tip about recording yourself comes in handy here.
Absolutely. Record yourself talking for a minute or two. Listen back purely for pace. Are you speeding up? Are you leaving unnaturally long pauses? How clear does it sound? It gives you that objective feedback.
It might feel a bit cringy listening to yourself, I know.
It often does.
But it's so useful for spotting these things. For you listening, maybe record a quick voice note, just describing something simple, and check your speed.
Self-awareness is key. You can't fix it if you don't know you're doing it.
Okay, closely related to pace is the music of English. Intonation and stress. Mistake number 9. Getting that wrong.
Yeah, intonation and stress. English is what linguists call a stress-timed language, meaning that within a sentence, certain syllables and words get more emphasis, more stress than others. And that rhythm is really important for meaning and clarity. Flat intonation or stressing the wrong words, it makes you hard to understand or can make you sound, well, maybe bored or uninterested.
Oh, this is so important. Stress can completely change the meaning. Like your example earlier, I didn't say he stole the money. Means something different from I didn't say he stole the money.
Exactly. Same words, different focus, different meaning. And intonation, the rise and fall of your voice that signals questions, expresses emotion like surprise or doubt. It's vital.
That's how you show you're engaged.
Right. Getting this right is crucial for sounding natural. And honestly, just being properly understood, the material really stresses this.
So how do you practice the music?
Mostly through listening and imitation. Pay really close attention to native speakers. Which words do they emphasize? How does their voice go up or down?
For questions, for statements.
Exactly. And then try to mimic those patterns. When you speak, consciously stress the words that carry the main meaning in your sentence.
So listening to podcasts, TV shows, real conversations.
Right.
And maybe even repeating sentences out loud, trying to copy the rhythm.
That's a great way to practice. It helps you internalize the patterns. It's about adding that expressiveness layer.
Okay, fantastic. We've covered a lot, from tiny words to the overall sound. Which brings us to the final mistake, and maybe the most important one, avoiding conversation because you're scared of making mistakes.
Yes. The material is really clear. The biggest mistake is letting that fear stop you from speaking altogether. If you avoid conversations, you just don't get the practice you absolutely need to improve. It becomes this huge barrier.
It's like self-sabotage, isn't it? You're so worried about messing up that you don't even try, which guarantees you won't get better.
Exactly. So the core message here is, remember, mistakes are normal. They're expected.
Part of the process.
Absolutely. The material even reminds us, hey, native speakers make mistakes too. The real goal isn't perfect grammar, it's communication. Focus on getting your message across, however imperfectly at first.
Focus on being understood.
Right. And the fixes are about building that courage. Find opportunities to speak, join a conversation group, practice daily, even small interactions count.
And celebrate the small wins.
Yes. Acknowledge your progress. Be kind to yourself. Every little bit helps build momentum.
That message of just trying feels so crucial.
Yeah.
So for you listening right now, what's one small chance you have this week to just speak some English, even if it feels scary? Find it. and just do it.
The act of speaking itself is the best practice there is.
Okay, so we've done a real deep dive here into these 10 common spots where English conversation can get a bit tricky.
Yeah, quite a range.
From word choice like very to grammar like prepositions and articles, the delivery pace, intonation, and crucially, that mindset piece about fear.
And the big takeaway from the source material seems to be mistakes, normal, even necessary, practice, essential. And focusing on these specific common areas can really boost your confidence in how natural you sound.
Definitely. And remember, you don't have to tackle all 10 at once. Just picking one or two things to work on, maybe consciously pausing instead of saying, or trying out some stronger adjectives. That can start making a noticeable difference pretty quickly in how you feel and how clear you sound.
It's about making that targeted effort and seeing the results.
So the material we looked at really hammered home that avoiding conversation is the biggest mistake. If the whole point of language is connection, communication, and if everyone, native speakers included, messes up sometimes, maybe the most powerful fix isn't actually about getting rid of every single error.
Maybe it's more about shifting the focus, prioritizing that connection, committing to making yourself understood, even if it's not, perfectly polished English.
Exactly. So here's a thought to leave you with. What happens to your confidence, to your willingness to just jump in and speak, if you change your main goal from sounding perfect to simply being understood? Something to think about on your English journey.